Hey, Poppy, you know what we should tell chat about? The best way to cheer ourselves up? When I'm sad, what do?
Lay your head on my tits?
Absolutely. It works really, really well. 10 out of 10, do recommend squishing boobs.
There's not my boobs. I don't think I could fit all of you. Oxide Lounge, thank you for the $5. That really bad bit was due to the fact that something happened and we need to talk about it, and then sadly it made us do some work, so here we fucking go.
I really do like squishing my head into Poppy's boobs, by the way. That is a thing. It does in fact cheer me up when I'm crying.
So here we go. Two content creators, both alike in dignity, where, you know, in Verona where we lay our scene, have both gotten canceled recently for dumb reasons. And normally we would try to ignore this, but of course people had to constantly bring it up. Natalie Minks, thank you so much for the $2 in Super Chat. Poppy, your outfit is slaying tonight, not gonna lie. Thanks, appreciate it. I tried to give maximum cleavage. Here's the thing.
Best boobs.
Need more of them. Anyway.
Lesbians.
So we're gonna start. This one's funny, but let's look at the first one. So this is the first one. So for those who don't know, about 2 weeks ago, Keffels had on Keemstar. Keemstar had been trolling online saying something to the effect that he was a trans ally and that trans men were men, and he was basically being a shitlord. Everyone knew he was being a shitlord. It is what Keemstar does. Keemstar is, let's face it, not a great guy. Keffels had him on to kind of call him on this memingness and also call him out for the death of another streamer, because he was directly a part of that harassment campaign. And essentially what happened is trans Twitter decided to fucking cancel her for no fucking reason. A lot of very big accounts, some people that I used to follow, they're now blocked, those people decided to go after her. And knowing what I know about human psychology, I was not happy about this because this woman is still recovering from very real PTSD from being hunted by kiwi farms. This is disgusting behavior from the trans community.
Yep. Now,
their argument was that she was platforming Keemstar, despite the fact that Keemstar is 100 times her size. Drama Alert is a massive channel. Not to mention the fact they then got on her for saying that, oh, she did something wrong by having him on there because she was, you know, in some way helping him, which again is just the platforming argument with extra steps. She got to make fun of the dude, the quartering, which is quite nice. And what ended up happening was during this, she posted this banger of a tweet that says, guys, I talked to Keemstar on stream. I'm starting to think he's not an actual trans ally. This was responded to in some of the dumbest ways humanly possible. Such things as, I'm shocked. Shocked. Well, not that shocked. Which, Dreamleaf, funny. But some other people, dude, come on. And basically this kept going where you started seeing occasionally trans ones, although most of them seems like they got pushed to the bottom. They were higher in this. Is this just a bad joke, or were you actually under the impression he was going to change? So automatically, this is idiocy. No one was under the idea that he was changing. We were all just memeing about it. People purposely not getting the bit. Love that. This person, I genuinely don't understand how there's a bit at all. Everyone's free to do as they please with their time, but I think actually trying to help the community might be a little bit more respectful than grifting for likes and views. We're literally dying right now. Okay, so this is we can do both. We can meme and also stop people from dying.
Yep.
No fun in the trans community. None. It's not allowed.
Nope.
Just gonna like that. There we go. Whether you're generally naive into thinking this, or and he wasn't trolling, or you did this for clout, this is just truly disappointing. And it goes on. There are so many trans content creators, especially very large, prominent trans creators who are trans women who are white, who basically started going to bat, yelling that she had done this and it was bad somehow, but no one could say how. They tried the platforming argument, that failed. Then they deferred into the J argument of like, she's somehow racist because she made a comment about noodles, because someone had tried to make a really dumb argument that like a white woman writing a cookbook about noodles is somehow cultural appropriation, despite the fact that noodles exist in several different other countries. And all Keffel said in response was, I like noodles, or something to that effect. And because she didn't like the updated progressive flag, which was made by a black woman. But a lot of people got upset about that because they're performatively progressive and don't actually care about their own aesthetics or their own views. They just want to side with groups because they want to look good. I think the progressive flag is too busy.
Yeah.
Do I care? No. Do I like the fact trans colors are on it and there's inclusion of black and brown people? Yes. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do that and keep it all together. But again, whatever. This is aesthetics versus like intention. Whatever. But so the issue is that Keffel's got torn down over this in one of the dumbest ways humanly possible. I know for a fucking fact that this shouldn't have happened. To every trans person who decided to go out here and act like this, I genuinely think this does more harm than xenogenders. Fight me. When you guys act humorless and don't get the bit, because I guarantee you most 20-somethings and teenagers, fucking Zoomers, got this joke and were fine with it because they know who both these people are. But every fucking 30-something and up lost their fucking minds. Except for, of course, yours truly, because I'm based. Zeta's 29, so they're not 30 yet, so just saying.
Hey, thank you.
But the reality is that this is insanity. And I say this very clearly because this is clearly a joke. Now, you can argue as to whether Keffel's, actually went hard enough on him. I think personally she did fine. But we're really not here to talk just about Keffels. Do I think Keffels is racist? No, we've talked about this on stream. Zena and I don't think Keffels is racist. I think Keffels is a good progressive and a good leftist. I think she's had some cringe takes in the past that were tanky vibes, and she's worked well past them. I don't care. She's nice to me. I think she's a good person, and she didn't deserve the shit that she got.
Yep.
And the fact that a bunch of the trans community, because of Jay and a bunch of other bitchy fucking people that wanted money in their goddamn GoFundMes, tore her down because she wanted to help with a legal fund. No. Every single one of those people can fucking eat it. Because the simple fact of the matter is, we as a community should have backed her 100%. You don't like that fucking take? Leave this community now. Because you won't like future ones. I assure you. So let's move on. Another case study. A very unknown streamer. This person's very small, very, very tiny on YouTubes, I think it is, on the tubes. And Voosh is, I think, what he goes by. He's a gamer, streamer, was the first to beat Bloodborne. The thing is that he made this quote to this tweet that had 1.2 million views. So here's the original post. From the based Dreamleaf. You know this bitch has some boyfriend or something. Clearly a TERF. They're using the genderqueer colors because TERF stole that for reasons. Men are hateful, porn-sick, degenerate barbarians who commit 98% of all violent crimes. They don't deserve to be collared or kissed on the head or whatever this vile garbage expects of women. They are not lost puppies. We should help men be better in society and try to pull them away from the right. And these are the responses we get. This is insanity. I'm not even a guy, and I immediately want to do the Ralph Wiggum meme. I'm in danger. This is psychosis. This is you cannot tell me this is not psychosis. So Voosh, this very unknown streamer, actual lesbians just ignore men. They're too busy sharing clothes and squishing their boobs together and so on and so on. The loudest, angriest, most vitriolic man-haters are bitterly heterosexual women. followed by help, the bitterly heterosexual women found this.
Okay, but like seriously, y'all could stand to like squish some more boobs together. Trust me, it's pretty great, okay?
I'm just saying that this is, as two lesbians, I want to be clear, every lesbian I've talked about this is absolutely true. Not a truer statement was spoken.
Hell, and I'm a trans-masc lesbian, right? And I still like squishing boobs together. It's pretty great.
So, of course, people had some fun takes. I like this one that I posted. Vosh to all the heterosexual women talking over actual lesbians. You have Alucard punching that one chick, Rip Van Winkle, screaming, check your privilege. Also me posting, because again, I'm a shitlord. As a lesbian, I agree with this. Return to tradition. Most people rejected his message. Actual lesbians just ignore men. Shut up. They hated Vosh because he told the truth. Posting is praxis. But this is the thread that really got me, and I just want to make this abundantly clear. This is a personal... Dreamleaf responded to this person who said, the particular flavor of misogyny you leftist men perpetuate is unlike anything I've ever seen, to be honest. Maybe that's because it isn't misogyny. Based Dreamleaf. Have I mentioned that you are in fact based Dreamleaf? Got yourself some Shad vibes here. Very nice. Much more importantly, isn't a leftist. Again, citation needed. Male moment, lol. Where is the person? Oh, this was deleted by the author. Where is the one? I'm trying to find it. There was one. Oh, did that silly bitch just hide her shit? This is not related to the larger topic. I just wanted to show people this because it was very funny to me. Oh yeah, here it is. Hey, look, that chick that agreed with the TERF got called out for agreeing with the TERF. I didn't think my actions would have consequences. So this is what I was referring to. And I'm just showing you this because it makes me laugh. So, TERF responds to Dreamleaf. Damn, why'd you become a woman if you hate them? Lol. This person, Sarah Alice, goes, can't believe I'm siding with a TERF here. My response. And that is why no one should be listening to pick-me-ass hoes. If your so-called principles lead you to agreeing with our fucking enemies, the people that want us dead, you have sold out your people, keep reaching for that acceptance, and then you do the Gimli Legolas meme. Woke Scold, never thought I'd fight alongside a TERF. TERF, yes you did. Also, this TERF in regards is anti-pan bisexual. I mean, this really makes this chick look bad. So because she's a TERF, I have to disagree with everything literally she says on principle and agree with the ignorant points of some neckbeard because of his porn history. Lol, there's bending out of shape happening here. Certainly not for me. You guys are a cult. That is not an argument. Vosh has plenty of silly takes, but this is clearly a joke. One you people are overreacting to. So much so that you have chose to agree with people who want us dead. Please examine your parasocial relationship with Vosh and stop sucking up to our enemies. So...
Sounds about right.
What is the point? The point is that these are two examples, again, both alike in dignity, that are centered around a particular notion. There is a part of the left that seems to need categorizing. People have tried before, and Zena and I are taking our shot at it because I don't like the terms that exist. These terms include things such as woke scold, tender queer, etc. And the reason I don't like these terms is because tender queer feels like I'm doing a homophobia or something. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Woke scold I don't like because that seems to trigger people. Again, the term we came up with probably going to trigger people.
True.
The term that we came up with is as follows. Puritanical progressivists. I gotta move chat for a second so you can see it. Right up there. What we're doing today is we're going to outline the first half of our characteristics of puritanical progressivists, a la Echo, and his 14 characteristics of fascism.
Yes.
Let's break this down. Gotta move the mouse. Number 1. Crybully. The people that we are identifying have certain tendencies of behavior. There are ways in which they act that seem to go directly against, how do I put this? It goes against actual progressive principles. And this is the first one and one of the most important. Uses victimhood as a weapon. Example. Vosh posts a thing joking about lesbians squishing their boobs together, and a bunch of people freak out and start claiming all sorts of crazy shit. That it is lesbian fetishism, that it is some sort of harm to women, when in reality what it's pointing out is the fact that we have a lot of really dumb fucking heterosexual women who speak up for lesbians. And again, let's be really clear. Straight women came up with political lesbians. Can we be clear? So, the reason why this goes against progressive values is because victimhood is a thing that is a sign of not only some personal or interpersonal harm, but the idea that to some degree, this is something that should be weaponized. Look at what the responses to Keffel's were. Keffel's responses were people basically trying to make the argument that because trans people are victims of really horrible shit, which we are, that Keffel shouldn't have done this for reasons. And they cited everything from her making money about it to her platforming a person 100 times her size. None of it came out to it. They wanted to use their supposed victimhood, and not supposed in the sense that trans people aren't harmed. They are. But somehow they were hurt by what she did, not by who they are. And as such, they used that victimhood to lash out.
One of the examples I remember was Keffels was going to donate money to a charity organization, right, to help trans people. And a lot of the complaints were, oh, you should go find other individual people's GoFundMes and put money there instead of going with a large charity that would, help trans people instead. So that's one of the examples of this.
Another example of this is Crybully. Great example of this is Essence of Thought. And by the way, this will be going in the Harm versus Offense series, just to let you know. Essence of Thought is actually a master at this. Because not only do they actually weaponize their own victimhood, but they weaponize, or their supposed victimhood in some cases, but they weaponize other people's as well. Go watch Essence of Thought's series on Lily Orchard. It's a lot of allegations that literally follow the same structure as what ContraPoints laid out in her canceling video, which we'll be going over in its entirety. Essence of Thought essentially does the same movement. The shorthand being presumption of guilt, abstraction, and essentialization. And we'll be pointing out how in just a little bit. But this is what it is. This is a perfect example of a crybully. Number 2. Totalitarian tendencies. Probably didn't spell that right. Don't care. All right. So, totalitarian tendencies. Threats of violence, but not as self-defense. Now, this is not so relevant to, say, Keffels, because Keffels gets threats basically saying she's being a bad tran. Which really, can we be honest, really sucks coming from the trans community. I've actually started blocking large-scale trans accounts. Your Mia Moores, your other people like that. Like, I just don't care anymore. When I see someone just touting the same shitty memes from like literally a kiwi farmer, I don't care. So, but what really broke this term down for me and Zena was, remember when we watched Lily's most recent video? She described herself as a totalitarian of gender.
Gender authoritarian.
Yeah, what does that mean? Because when I hear that, what I hear is that you are willing to engage in authoritarianism over your views. And here's what I have a problem with here. Well, I absolutely want my views to become the norm, and I absolutely want society to change for the better. I don't believe in authoritarianism. The issue I have is that what totalitarian tendencies comes down to is not only does it have an authoritarian feel to it, but it also gets into threats of violence, but not as self-defense. This is something that was done against Vosh quite a bit during the whole masculinity debate, where people were literally giving him death threats because he said something. We have people like Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, and all these other fucks out here who say some of the most god-awful things possible, never really hear about death threats against them. I assume they get them, but you don't really ever hear about them. But you genuinely find death threats over like stuff that Vosh says anytime. And again, they were doing it over a boob squishing joke. These totalitarian tendencies are problematic because they lead to some really interesting issues of self-reflection. Namely, in the case of the Vosh issue, I think that there is unresolved and unreflected issues within some of the ways people look at him as a content creator because of his more spicy bullshit in the past. And what ends up happening is, because of their parasocial anti-fan relationship, there is nothing the man can ever do to improve. Mm-hmm. So an obvious joke is obvious, flat out leads to this type of behavior. This is a fucking problem because this is not in line with progressive values, right? Number 3. Go, I guess.
Some of this might fall into canceling, but the totalitarian stuff may also, in my estimation, spread out, you know, to people in that same community as the person doing it. Right? Like if you have like a particular YouTuber, you know, making these kinds of comments, and then, you know, that kind of attitude, you know, spreads down through, you know, the community, or, you know, they've got certain rules in their Discord server that takes on a more totalitarian way of things. You know, I think that's the other way that I see that going on,
well, too. For example, yeah, well, we'll get to this in a moment, but like there are examples of this being like, there's an I guess what we're pointing at is a sort of absolutist way of engagement. And there'll be more of this when we get to canceling, but what Zena's pointing out is there's a very weird way that these people sort of engage in what feels like, well...
There's oftentimes like lists of things that people aren't allowed to talk about or aren't allowed to bring up that aren't just, you know, not safe for work or not safe for life kind of things. But more like, you can't talk about this, this, and that streamer, or you can't talk about this, this, and that topic. So I went back through Natalie Wynn's canceling video, because it's good shit. And here's the reason I bring it up. Canceling. One of the major ways that the progressive, the puritanical progressivist attacks is through mob mentality, retributive justice. And the way they do it is through a type of propaganda that is really, really problematic. Let's go back through these because they're fucking important. Cancel culture trope 1, presumption of guilt. So notice the shift that happens in these discussions. Keffels is accused of being racist. Keffels is racist. See the shift? There's a way in which, when these discussions are made, there is no checking receipts. There is no way in which to understand where the person was coming from or give them the best, you know, in any way try to understand where they're coming from. Or give them benefit of the doubt or anything.
What you do is you immediately assume guilt. We've talked about this before with trans women. Trans misogyny leads people to immediately assume guilt in ways that are incredibly harmful. And one of the major problems is when you end up looking at this clearly, you start to understand something really, really obvious. The reason they do this is to lead through these steps as a form of propaganda. I don't think these are just shifts that happen. I think I don't know if they're intentional in some people's cases, but they happen. Culture trope 2, abstraction. So now it becomes, instead of Keffels critiqued the flag, now it becomes abstracted into Keffels said something racist. Spelled that right, maybe? Essentialization? Essentialism. Ism, there you go. But. Trope 3, essentialism. So now it's that Keffels critiqued the flag and did a racism. Keffels is a racist. Keffels is not a leftist. Do you see how that moves the essentialist thing? You slowly but surely boil them down to their smallest thing. Do you hear how unfair this is? And I can go through a number of examples. Zena and I covered a bunch of them.
Well, and this also reminds me of Newspeak, right, from 1984, right? The removal of more and more and more words, you know, keeps changing it until you basically have a concept that doesn't really mean anything and one that's not really useful for communicating anymore. And in this case, yeah, all the nuance is lost. There's not really any way to go backwards and it's really hard to go backwards through these steps and figure out all of what happened. You kind of have to hope that you find the right person who was there for all of these different moments in order to go back through them. And you may not find that person.
Cancel culture trope number 4. Pseudo-intellectualism or moralism. We literally saw this with the Keffels example, right? In the Keffels example, there was literally a thing of, I don't understand why you did this. I don't understand the bit when we're out here dying. Mm-hmm. Bitch, no one was talking about that. These are unrelated things. These are false equivalencies. People can have fun and do meme shit and also be activists. In their minds, there is only one thing you should be doing. It should be always going towards the cause. If you're not always going towards the cause, you're against the cause. Come back to that totalitarian tendency. Or they'll just go into intellectualism. But again, it's the moral thing. Rather than just saying, hey, can you please put some money in my GoFundMe? We had people like Jay and other frickin' like bad faith actors go into this huge issue. Yeah, pseudo-intellectualism is like literally the DJ Mule video on Zan. Which is also a canceling video. Presumption of guilt, abstract, no, literally... You want to see an example of these in action? The DJ Mule video is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
Cancel culture trope number 5. Can't talk. Cancel culture trope number 5. No forgiveness. Do you remember when Lindsay Ellis got canceled for the whole Raya the Last Dragon bullshit? Do you remember how no one would let go her doing the rape song or any other crazy shit like that? And I'm not saying these things were good, but like, at what point is someone forgiven for things? At what point can someone apologize enough? Because in this particular ideology, you can't.
Or like the noodle things happened with Keffels. That comment happened a couple years ago. That's not even anything recent or having to do with anything recent.
Well, it wasn't super long ago, but it was obviously months and months ago, and obviously there was nothing particularly problematic with it.
Yeah. No, I think it was at least a long ass time ago.
Which one? Which one?
The noodles.
The noodles thing was only like a year ago.
Yeah, but still, like it's still not really anything last February. Yeah, still not really much to do with anything current going on right now.
Now, there are more of these, but we're just covering the basics. Cancel culture trope number 6. Transitive property of cancellation. So you ever notice that there's this thing when people talk on the left about debaters? It's debate bros. Last I checked, Demon Mama's not a guy. Riverboat Jack is not a guy. But these people debate. They have discussions on stream.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way in which when people discuss this, they have to boil people down to the smallest possible thing. Yeah, there's also a presumption of being white when shark exists. God damn. There's a way in which, because Destiny exists, or Vosh exists, this then gets translated into the, like, because Vosh gets essentialized, then everybody who is also a debater gets essentialized. It becomes social contagion. We're unironically reacting to people by putting them in an outgroup that is not real. Everybody does debates, whether it's through essay or direct debating online, and sometimes this is blood sports and sometimes it's not. Yeah, PhilosophyTube got shit on during Contra's canceling, which is worse because she was still closeted at the time. Yeah, because she made the video afterwards where she was talking about, like, she did that layered video that me and Zena saw where basically, like, it went into the eventual thing saying, like, my friend got fucking canceled and I didn't know what to do. There was nothing I could say that would make anyone, like, be okay. But, like, I also didn't want to leave my friend hanging.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that these people are perfect, but there's a way in which you take something, like, let's say Essence of Thought. Essence of Thought said, you know, Essence of Thought accused Lily Orchard of sexual harassment. That becomes an abstraction of Lily Orchard sexual harassed me. That gets essentialized into Lily is now is somehow a sexual harasser. And then turns into a moralism of she's a bad person, or we just even go right to the whole sexual predator thing. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't some weird fucking skeletons in her closet or allegations, but they are just that, allegations. There's a way that people in this particular camp of the left speak where they go through these steps and boil things down to be true when they are simply assertions. Do you understand that? Is this clicking for you guys? Does this make sense? Because these things are the things that lead to these types of cancellations on the left. We're going to get through the rest of these, and then we'll explain them as we go on. Conflation of, you knew it, offense
versus harm.
Harm.
Mm-hmm. In this, we notice a tendency between, or we notice slightly different tendencies between, particularly the right and the left. The right tends to claim everything is offense, right? You're just a special snowflake. You're just this. You're just that. The left, though, tends to claim that everything is harm. Okay, somebody said something and this led to harm. Somebody said this or they tweeted that and it led to harm. When really that might not have happened. So, when we're talking about offense, we're talking about like a personal offense. You can be personally offended by something, and that's totally valid. It doesn't mean that it's invalid. It just means that you're offended. That's your ownership of that experience. Versus harm, where this is something that should be at least be able to be like identifiable in some way. Something that is like a systemic harm, right? We can see where, poverty is affected by different things, going on in the socioeconomics of that area, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how we get the offense versus harm. And with us, our belief is that you need to be able to differentiate between these two, because otherwise our reactions to things are not really in order with what's actually happening, mm-hmm. right? They can be massively large in comparison to something that's relatively small. Or something that's interpersonal gets taken as a massive systemic harm instead. And that doesn't really make sense because one person isn't responsible for systemic harm, right? Vosh isn't responsible for the patriarchy, right? But sure enough, when he said something spicy to Rawling, suddenly a lot of people made him out to be responsible for the patriarchy and misogyny and everything.
Yeah, so when we get into this, I want you guys to look at this. So look back up here, past all my spicy comments. Where is the harm? Show me on the doll where this actually harmed anyone. This made a cute joke that I know every lesbian I talked to thought was funny as fuck, and made a serious point about the fact that the loudest, most angry people that are against men are often heterosexual women. And the joke of this is it's not untrue. It was second-wave feminists that came up with, political lesbians. Real lesbians don't need to be political. They like fucking girls.
Yep. Now, I do want to mention something in here, because there is a weird question about data or being able to talk about things, okay? We know that there are times where there might not be a hard data, there might not be a statistic in a study, okay? That doesn't mean that something isn't true or isn't there, but it does mean that you need to do the work to demonstrate what is going on or what that phenomena is. And you do need to back that up the best you can, all right? So if you are noticing some phenomena, going, okay, here's what I'm observing, here's the effect from that I'm observing, and here's where I see that leading to, right? You need concrete examples to do that. Mm-hmm. All right? This is not an attempt like the right does, where they just go, oh, well, you don't have a study on that, so that's not true, it's not real. And we're like, no, racism is a thing. We know that it's a systemic thing in the United States. Come on now.
Well, and it comes down to this, Andrea, I don't know. I don't remember those names off the top of my head. So, Dharma, you need to be more specific, dear. So the thing is that, yeah, so the issue is that when you're talking about this, if you're going to assert one, then you need to demonstrate that one. That would be what I would say about this. So the thing is that a lot of the claims on this tweet by Vosh and also by this tweet of Keffels is that they do harm, either by ignoring larger issues, or by somehow sexualizing lesbians in a negative way. But the problem is that the people who don't like this tweet are offended. This went against their personal issues. Now, this could be because they're offended because they take it as an issue, or more likely, they took offense to it because Vosh said it. Because the issue is that there is a very real anti-fan parasociality against Vosh in a lot of ways that does seem to crop up every time he makes a spicy tweet. I'm not saying that he didn't in any way, necessarily say something cute. But you know what? There's no way this does any real harm. Keffel's meeting with Keemstar, she literally took on someone 100 times her size and did the best she could. How is there harm? When we act like this, when we act like these people, you end up in a situation where you make the left so amazingly unappealing, because the argument from these fucks will be something to the effect of, well, we're the ones that are right. That should bring them over. You have to seduce people. You have to bring them over. You have to actually convince them. This is why rhetoric that actually invites men over and helps them is going to be way better, because we can combat shit.
Well, and people actually want, like, human connection, right? And if you're not ever going to, like, try and level with them,
like,
yeah.
This is the reason. This is one of the reasons I would actually say the behaviors we see from some of the people responding to Keffels and Vosh are the reason why we will never win. I'm not saying that to be doomer. These people who fall into this camp of puritanical progressivists are often harmful as shit, because their absolute inability to deal with things, their projection of their trauma. If I go by what Lexandra said, Lexandra says that a lot of their shit comes from trauma. So be it. But the point of this actual write-up is not to give a shit about their origin. I don't give a fuck about their origin. I'm not acting as a therapist right now. But the reality is, you have to realize that this turns people off. And if you think that's a good thing, that keeps people away, you do not care about this as a political thing. No, Lexandra didn't post cringe at all. Lexandra made the argument that genderqueer stuff comes from trauma, which I tend to agree with. I just don't care about their origins at the moment. I have a pretty good relationship with Lexandra. Like Lexandra a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So again, this idea of conflation of offense versus harm is really an important part, because watch Essence of Thought. Mm-hmm. Watch Lily. Everything is harm. Everything. Look at the person that responded to Keffels and was like, there's people out here dying. Everything is harm. There's only harm and not harm. There's only these two binaries. There's never a spectrum. No, everyone gets bored with Essence of Thought. That her presentation style is god-awful. Do you want to talk about this a little bit in regards to the men discourse?
I'm trying to think about where we were going.
We were going to talk about the idea that one of the reasons so many people are so against the idea that we should try to bring men over from the right is partially because they think men are essentially fascistic, which falls into this idea that, like, there's no point in saving them. Again, the redemption is impossible or so hard as not to be worth it. Yeah.
Redemption is impossible. This is a weird one for me because it does get put on people in a lot of ways. It assumes people cannot change or they have no, like, ability to choose, right? And so it takes something that's probably more of a systemic thing going on, or otherwise, and conflates it with, something else happening. So a lot of the men discourse involves going, no, these men are so ingrained in patriarchy or misogyny and everything else that they are just going to be threatening predators all the time, no matter what. And this hurts everyone, right? This keeps men from breaking out of bad habits because there's not really any other teaching going on to show them what else to do, right? They're probably you probably don't have a whole lot of connections. And it's also transphobic because this stuff gets put onto trans men too. And there's a weird way this stuff spreads to trans women. But this is one of those things where, like, when we say, like, the memory, like, the internet memory just never stops. you know, like Lindsay Ellis didn't come back from her canceling. Like she just quit YouTube altogether because that was that bad. Right. And I don't think anyone ever really like let it go. There's things from like Vosh's history that have been clipped out and constantly brought up despite him like openly talking about it several times since, you know, the incidents, and has cleared it up, or at least done some work, you know, at least done as much work as possible to clear up those issues.
Yeah, like for example, he's supposedly a serial harasser, even though there was only one incident in Destiny's community. He's supposedly a pedophile, despite the fact that these are literally him making an argument about the fact that we're okay with some types of victimization and exploitation of children, but not others. There are claims that he is somehow not really a socialist, despite everything he does arguing for socialism. If you go by Lily Orchard, he's some kind of white supremacist because he argued with a black woman. A black woman, might I add, who could not just come out and simply say that genocide is bad and okay. Like, she couldn't even pull the fucking, like, Mel.
Hell, we had somebody leave one of our Discord servers one time because we were going to, this was a few years ago, we were going to discuss a ContraPoints video. And this person came in and went, well, okay, but what's your take? And Poppy, you know, was like, hey, this is my take, but also like, this is really going to be a discussion with everybody. And because it was a pro-Contra take, this person just bounced out of the server and just left.
Yeah, lashed out?
Yep.
Carl C., I disagree with your idea. As long as professional counselors be the ones to meet with these men, I'm all for it. I think that's a bad take. Let me be abundantly clear, that is a bad take. There needs to be people in the movement who are going to be the ones that are going to be points of contact for them. You cannot just put it on mental health professionals.
One, that system's already really slammed.
You don't need to apologize, but if you're going to have the take, you got to defend it. Like, in some ways, the issue is that if you just have it be professional counselors, like, yes, in some cases, absolutely, I'm the person to send into that. I am a professional counselor. But the reality is that there are other points of contact you need. When I say this, though, when I say that we need to reach out to men, what people hear me say is, I need to send, like, genderqueer, 5'2" twinks to go do this. No, you send men. You send people who can handle this situation. And you give them people they can look up to. You give them role models. You give them individuals who can make it look good. This is why the left needs to redo the idea of masculinity, because we need to find people who can do that. I'm not saying
people who can actually like relate to them on some of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like we had a number of people speak up in the in our talking to the Discord folks, talking to the community folks who are like, no, like I've been through shit with really toxic masculinity. Like I know what this stuff is like. No, these are perfect people to go in and talk about their experiences, right? They absolutely are. And the thing is that it takes time and effort to get to a counselor, right? If that's what a person needs, that takes a lot of work. Usually the counselor is like the first point of contact. It's other people going like, hey, no, you're worth it. It's okay to explore your emotions. It's okay to need help. They need that idea first a lot of times before you even make it to the counselor, because our stupid society demonizes getting help, right? How many times do we make fun of people for like not reading the IKEA directions?
Yeah, Carl C., I don't disagree with that inherently. The only concern I have is they don't want to talk to men. Tough. If you want to be an actual political movement and not just fucking social groups, you have to. You just do.
Carl C., that's a really big like swath of.
No, I do think this just fits into the whole genderqueer trauma thing. I want to be clear. Even if I accept that generalization.
Yeah, that's where I was going. Is that is a generalization.
Yeah.
And we are saying that the people who are able to, we do need them to speak up. And the more we talk about this, the more that we say they need that. No, we are actually finding people in our community that are happy to have these talks with people. They are happy to be around and, you know, to be there. And it doesn't have to always be complicated. It can just be as simple as like, hey, you know what? Have people around the Discord server just to be available, right? Like just be there. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a reason we don't try to segregate our Discord servers super hard by any like particular gender's role, be that trans or non or anything else.
It is true. So, next, and we're going to go back through these, don't worry, but we want to get through this last one. This is the last one of part 1. Weaponization of selective identity politics. So, Zena and I both have things to say on this, but I want to outline it. This particular aspect of the puritanical progressivist is that they believe that anyone speaking on an issue that is not 100% part of that group does not get to speak on it. That is, they will weaponize parts of identity by saying you're either not gay enough or not trans enough or not this enough, or they'll either move the goalpost to another identity. Oh, I see that you're an indigenous person and trans. Oh, but this is a black issue, so we can't talk about that. Or they will remove your status as a marginalized person if you don't agree with the so-called monolith. My case in point is, and Zena can talk more about this, but our friend Rain, Lady Rain Cloud, literally happens all the time.
Oh yeah, people go, you're not indigenous enough, or you're not this enough, or you're not that enough. I think basically just about every single variation has been said at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
or you were a veteran, so you're not a lefty anymore. I've heard that one a few times.
Yeah, there's a way in which, like, oh, you're a veteran, so you're not a lefty. There's the, oh, well, you don't think this video or this tweet was a problem, so you must not be a real trans person, or some weird shit about, like, because she doesn't agree with certain things, then it becomes an issue of, like, suddenly you're not person of color enough. Like, you'll see this happen, especially in, I'll give you an example, is the Lindsay Ellis cancellation with Raya the Last Dragon. There was this idea that you're hurting the Asian community. But there were people in that original thread that were literally Asian Americans saying, no, you're not. This is just a story structure issue. I've been accused of being faking being trans for watching Vosh. Yeah, every Vosh fan morphs into a teenage cishet boy for some reason. Lol.
Even though there's a lot of trans people in his audience, yeah.
So many bullets online essentializing Rain. Fucking true. No, Rain gets an amazing amount of shit. Please tell Rain anytime you see Rain on the server or on Twitter that Rain is wonderful, because Rain is really, really wonderful. But, like, literally, there's this thing where, like, you have this idea that in order to do this type of harm that these people are doing, they have to treat marginalized groups as monoliths. And the way that works is by definitely pushing this notion that the whole group is a monolith. They all believe the same thing, except for the fact that there are people that go against it. Yeah, I'm a black female. I can't like Vosh. Yeah, like, literally, it's the, like, there's literally that meme, like, that someone superimposed Professor Flower's face on, like, I'm trans and I like Vosh, and it's literally like them draining the color out, like, you're not black anymore. Like people will steal your race for liking a particular content creator. And you know what? I don't care if you like Steven Crowder. If you like Steven Crowder, you're a bad person. But if you're black, you're still black. Like, this is not how this works. Your identities are not, like, this is like misgendering a trans person because they're the bad tran. A good example of this is something Zena heard about, a particular Discord server.
Oh, yeah, no, there was a Discord server that went on a lovely banning spree. And apparently in their roles, what they had was, it was...
What you are.
What you are not, right? You are not a survivor of SA or CSA. You are not a person of color. You are not this, you are not that. And so it basically cuts you off from, like, being able to talk about any of these issues that you're apparently not part of, or maybe not part of, and just kind of drew a lot of really strange lines.
Yeah, so if you're not part of one of these groups, you can't speak to these particular issues, or someone can just call you out for it, which is immediately somehow goes against your arguments somehow. Like, I get the idea of exalting voices of marginalized people because their experiences matter, but their experiences matter because we need to hear them, not because they're always factually correct. There's some dumb shit that comes out of trans people's mouth. There's some dumb shit that comes out of some black people's mouth. There's some dumb shit that comes out of white people's mouth. Like, this is just the thing. Yeah, the absolute shock of me not automatically siding with Professor Flowers. Oh yeah, no, I've been told I'm a white supremacist because I immediately listened to what she said.
Oh yeah, no. Or you need to watch more of her content and you'll understand. Watch more of
bitch, have a better fucking debate a better debate than next time. Jesus. Like, this is where it also comes down to like some of the allegation stuff too. Is there's the idea of believe all women, or believe all victims, excuse me. And here's the thing, I want to be really clear about this. The reason why we believe all victims is because, one, it's a good thing to do, it's moral, but on top of it, it's because it's mathematically correct. If you look in statistics, there's a thing called a false positive. When you're doing statistics for research, a false positive is when you, generally speaking, think you get a hit, but you don't really. And the issue is that if you look at sexual assault statistics, the likelihood of a false positive is somewhere between, depending on which study you look at, somewhere between 6 to 9%, maybe. Now, if you look at the number of reports, that actually is halved. So then you get down to, quite possibly, somewhere between 4.5% to 3%. So 3-ish people, victims, normally women, out of rape victims are not telling the truth, but the other 97 are. This is why we believe victims. But what people forget is the other half of that. It's believe all victims and then verify. We've argued on this channel that you can believe victims and also withhold judgment towards the accused. Now, there are edge cases, for example, like, say, the Andrew Callahan stuff, where there is such a demonstrably huge amount of fucking allegations that it's safe to say some shit happened. But the reason why we have law, the reason why we have this idea of presumption of innocence before guilt, is that without it, you have retributive justice and mob law. And
both of these things either will not find the truth, don't care about the truth, or go utterly way too hard and then keep going. Right? We see a lot of like the internet mobs don't ever stop. No one ever stops to go, oh, wait a minute. I'm one of 100,000. What's the 100,000 doing? Like, there's no way that that's ever going to be, right, like, comparable to any kind of consequence for a single person.
Yep. Yeah, and so the issue is that when you talk about these the weaponization of selective identity politics, what you really get into is the idea that it's just always either taking away someone's identity, using their identity as a cudgel, or even so, a shield so the other person can't speak to this issue, or it is in some ways a way to move the goalpost. Oh, well, you're talking about this thing and I don't like your argument, I can't defeat your argument, fallacy, I'm going to move the goalpost, so now I'm talking about it, and now only this group can talk about this.
Or you're armchair diagnosing somebody.
Yeah, or in my case, according to Lily, I'm armchair diagnosing somebody.
Well, this one gets used against you and I a lot. A lot.
Oh, weaponization?
Yeah.
How so?
Of the selective identity, though, right? Like, you are only a counselor and have expertise, right, and have a degree and everything when it supports their point. When it doesn't, they're like, nah, those don't exist. Expertise doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, the contradictions simultaneously of Lily being like, you armchair diagnosed me, but you're also not a real counselor, is amazing to me, because like that's the contradiction.
Or there's only one trans person sitting here on the screen right now. Just one. It's not me. It's that one. There's a lot of people that like to just erase half of it and just to be like, no, let's just keep the trans femme so we can just harass the trans femme on the channel.
Yeah, so they do trans mask erasure, they do trans femme hypervisibility and attack. Like, it's literally two weaponizations for the price of one.
Yep. They select which things are going to be easier to attack or easier to identify and go with that instead. Right?
And I guarantee you some of the stuff I revealed earlier in the discussion about being someone with DID, that's going to get labeled against me. People are going to think my takes are less so because I'm mentally ill. Even though on this channel I've been 100% like clear that if you guys look at our videos, I think I've demonstrated both my intelligence, my wit, my abilities. And yeah, I've also been very upfront about the fact that, yeah, I have trauma. I have BPD. I have DID. People will question your expertise as a therapist because of your pronouns, gender, and diagnoses. Yeah. I've literally had clients. This is how this shit gets weird. Is like I've literally had parents of clients or like relatives of clients who have been literally like, well, you shouldn't listen to your therapist because your therapist is trans. Like, I have no objectivity in a situation. I'm just trying to force everyone to be trans. Do I want more confused kids being trans? I mean, if they're trans, yes, but like,
we want the trans kids that...
I want them to be people that are going to detransition.
Right, we want them to get help, not like force just random kids into something, yeah.
So this is the first half. We have another list we're going to be starting, but the purpose of this I want to break down again is, look for these traits. Cry bullies, totalitarian tendencies, canceling, conflation of offense versus harm, redemption is impossible or so hard as not to be worth it, weaponization of selective identity politics. These are, by their nature, the activities of people who claim they are progressive, but are not. My argument, and Zena's as well, is that there are people within our movement who are more interested in either lashing out with their trauma or exacting power as a way by which to get over their own insecurities. A good example of this is someone like, for example, Lily Orchard. Lily, as much as I love her to death, Lily is by all rights claims to be progressive, but her behavior is reactionary. Essence of thought. Progressive in lots of ways, but also really reactionary. Seriously, go back through and look at some of the ways that Ethel interacts with people online. It's about power and control. There's no real good faith or interaction. It's you will play her game or not. Notice the people that don't do this, though. Because I can tell you, I guarantee you, chat, name a lefty content creator, and I can tell, we can go through and break them down with these things real quick. Let's just do a couple, just so we can break this down real quick. Name someone, anyone. Riverboat Jack. I know not as much. Oh, Demon Mama. Let's do Demon Mama. Riverboat Jack I know less about, but I do like the stuff I've seen of Riverboat Jack, though her alerts are really loud, so they're hard to look at sometimes. The Twitch chat is not her. She's quite pretty. I like girls. Oh, we'll get to FD in a minute. So, I have never once heard Demon Mama ever cry bully. I've never once seen her use the way she's been harmed or attacked online as a way to weaponize anything. I have never seen her have totalitarian tendencies. In fact, it seems like her ideology is entirely opposed to that.
True.
I have never seen her engage in any of these types of essentializations or abstractions. In fact, while I do have disagreements with her on certain people or certain investigations she's done, I can say that in most cases, I haven't seen her engage in these. Save for, say, some of the Bailey stuff. Generally speaking, no, I haven't seen her engage in this. Conflation of offense versus harm? No. She's a shitposter, same as the rest of us. I don't see it. Redemption is impossible? Fuck no. She's brought over people from the right. Weaponization of selective identity politics? When the fuck have you ever seen that? FD signifier. Crybully, maybe. Totalitarian tendencies? I don't see this one so much with him. The main one I see for him is canceling. Conflation versus harm.
This one shows up a little more in the people that he props up, I find.
Oh, EJ, Luna Oi.
Yep.
Professor Flowers, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do see him doing the conflation of offense versus harm. Redemption is impossible. Absolutely. Everything I just said about FD is true about Sophie from Mars. Thank you. I don't even need to go through it. Like, it's just true. Xander Hall? I don't see Xander Hall doing any of this. Xander Hall's actively spoken against canceling. I rarely ever see him conflate for offense versus harm. He's brought over people from the right. In fact, if you want to do a comparison, look at Xander Hall versus DJ Mule. Sophie from Mars, I know little about. I will say, if you guys want me to actually break her down, I think a lot of this...
I'm not super familiar with her, except for what people have told me.
I would say that there's a number of these. And remember, I want to be clear, these are like diagnosis criteria. Just like with Echo, it's not so much about having to meet all of them. It's about meeting enough of them that you get the vibe. Do you feel me? No, but what? He still does this weird generalization shit, and he still props up people like Luna fucking Oi, who's a goddamn Vietnamese nationalist.
Or like Professor Flowers. Just,
H-Bomber Guy is so fucking wholesome. There's nothing here that H-Bomber Guy does. But do you see my point? When you start breaking this down to the people you like and some of the people that you watch, like, I'll just bring up some people. Thought Slime? I guarantee you know where Thought Slime falls. The point of this is not to condemn anybody, but the point of this is to make it clear that these are things that we need to look out for, because the issue is these particular traits hurt us as a community. And the reason I will say that, and I will defend this position, is because optically, they make us look unwilling to accept people who have done some shit. And they push people out of the community in ways that are not productive. Keffels has a massive platform that could be useful for trans politics, and there are members of the community that will tear her down because she, made fun of Keemstar? Go fuck yourself.
Well, and the interesting part, too, is that we get to see a lot of the people who have been on the receiving end of this, right? Somebody messaged us and was like, hey, there was some really, confusing situation that happened with another Discord server that we'd never even heard of, and they were afraid that would affect them here. And we're like, no, we have no idea about anything going on there. We don't know. But sure enough, though, the offense versus harm happened in their story, right? Where, yeah, they did something and they tried apologizing and it was a really confusing situation, but the amount of harm that was done was thought to be so massive that the people thought that they couldn't come back from it, right? And so you ended up in this place where redemption really wasn't feasibly possible because that harm was too great. Okay, and so this person wasn't able to be in that community anymore. And we see a lot of other people coming from other communities as well that have been through similar things. Or this weird violence and hostility that gets assumed and put on autistic men. That one is a really weird one. All right, because all sorts of things will just get projected onto this person. Onto somebody of that demographic.
I basically have banished the word. Watts, you have a great... Thank you, Zena. And also, Watts, I honestly... The whole thing of, just apologize, you need to be held to account. I never want to hear anyone say that ever again. Because every time someone says they need to be held to account, what they mean is we want to be able to abuse you in perpetuity. Yeah. But at least, at our server, things that, we just take for, you know what, they had an argument. Two people on the server had an argument, are things that other people would take for no, this person was being massively hostile. What? This is kind of some of the disparities that we see the effects of this stuff from. Mm-hmm. So, isn't accountability just admitting things? I mean, accountability is being willing to be responsible and hold yourself, I would say, to account of the things that you've done. It's not just admitting things, it's also taking responsibility for them, owning them, if you will. The problem is that... particularly being willing to, look at it enough to make changes, right? But if there's something you're saying I did that I didn't, then why the fuck would I take accountability for it? Someone literally said that, there was a problem with Keffels doing a bit when there's people dying out there. How the fuck is Keffels supposed to take accountability for that? Seriously, I cannot understand why we go after trans women the way we do. Keffels, ContraPoints, Demon Mama, fuck. I just don't understand it. There's just a way that we justify it, and it's so fucking painful to watch. I feel like the problem is a lot of people think it's far beyond just owning and making it right. To them, accountability is some nebulous, impossible concept. Yeah, and that's a fucking problem. Well, and you gotta take into account accountability to who, right? In a lot of cases, especially with the internet, the most that we can hope for is that, every individual has their own personal sense of accountability, because that's really what you can do, right? You can't necessarily guarantee that the other person will magically accept your apologies, all right? Or if, Poppy and I, we've got quite a few thousand subs, okay? If something happens and somebody is offended by something that we say, one, we may not know, we may not be able to reach out or do anything personal with that person, right? There's 6,000, okay? There's no way that we could, take care of every single individual issue
with 6,000 people. We just can't. But if there is a way that we can take an account and like make a correction, you know, or address it next stream or something like that, yeah, cool. So accountability really does need to be more of a personal endeavor, because otherwise, if you're accountable to the mob, again, the mob doesn't have a scale. They don't go, oh, okay, well, this is like a level 1 offense and needs like a 5-minute timeout. No, they don't do that. They don't go, oh, this thing did a lot of actual real harm, and we got to figure out how to fix that. Like, no, that the mob's not doing that shit. So, like,
well, and there's never accountability to the mob, and there's never accountability in the mob. There was a line used, I think it was in the ContraPoints video, which was, the snowflake doesn't know it's part of the avalanche. And I think that's really important for us to take into consideration is one of the ways that they weaponize this stuff is by spreading this abstracted, essentialized information through this moralization. What they'll do is they'll pull people over and start to lash out. Every single person I saw go against Keffels was a high follower, white trans woman who was just repeating fucking talking points from a kiwi farmer. They were fucking dupes. Listen to black trans women. I have several. Not all of them think the same. In fact, the way that you apparently think they do is kind of racist as fuck. So the point of this list, I want to be clear, is not to condemn members of the left. I assume that someone could try to take it out of context, and that's fine. You smack them down when you see that. But the point of this is to really understand very clearly that
what these behaviors look like, yeah.
Yeah, we have a fucking cancer in the left. It hurts us. It damages us. It causes problems for us.
And it splits up our communities and makes it impossible for people to actually, like, have healthy relationships. Because, yeah, you know what? We all want to do activism. We want to change things. But if we can't actually, like, take care of our shit enough to work together, we're not getting anywhere.
Like, I'll give you an example. Is like, there's this weird thing that, like, Keffels gets treated the same way as Vosh does, despite the fact that Vosh is, like, way bigger than her in followers and things. She's well known online because of the kiwi farm shit. But beyond that,
she doesn't have all this, like...
But she doesn't have the same clout. She doesn't have the same follower count as large of a community. She's also a trans woman. Like, there's a bizarre way in which people are treating her on the same level as him. And again, I don't think Vosh gets treated well either, but he seems to be a big boy and can handle it. Like, yeah, Vosh is 10 times her size on YouTube. Yeah, it's fucking insane. People ask why we defend these people. Like, we're some kind of simps or that we're trying to, like, suck up. The answer is not that. Vosh apparently had a really cringe take on asexuality. We're going to watch the clip and see what we think about it. If it needs to be covered on stream, we will. I don't have a problem saying where I disagree with Vosh or Destiny or any other large content creator. But when I see them being mistreated, when I see people who I think are doing demonstrable good, fuck, Vosh did campaigning to do canvassing for the last election and clearly did demonstrable good. And none of these fuckers online care.
Oh, no one even mentioned it. No, that campaigning did huge things. Like,
also, every person that fucking condemns him, Lily made a video basically spending 15 minutes condemning the man and calling him a white supremacist. And guess what? I don't see her doing the fucking charities that he can. She has 130,000 subscribers and she hasn't done jack shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's raised probably close to $1 million or maybe like 750,000. Someone give me numbers. But he's raised a shit ton of money in charity. That was huge.
Well, and I think the other part too is like one take does not make an entire person. Yeah, you know what? Maybe there are a couple cringe takes. There are. Bosch has had some cringe takes over the years.
I assume Keffels has had some.
Probably. We'll probably have some at some point too.
Probably not word based.
I mean, yeah. Well, I was going to be a little humble, okay? But, you know, Bobby's like, nah, I'm just the best. Here we are. But, you know, like, again, people are complex. Like, that's just how that is. Like, a lot of these people are honestly doing way more good to outweigh any potential, like, cringe takes that they've got.
Yeah, and that's basically, you may say my Fallout New Vegas takes are bad, but you know what? History will vindicate me. I mean, the reality is like, yeah, every content creator is going to have cringe takes. Not everyone is super knowledgeable. There's a reason why I don't really cover, like with Zena, we don't really cover any like international news. We suck at it. And there's a reason why we haven't talked about Andrew Tate, because I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we haven't really gone into, you know, fuck, what else is another big, like the Andrew Callahan stuff. There were other streamers with much bigger platforms talking about consent and doing an admirable job of it. You guys know this stuff. If you don't, there's a fucking problem. But I'd rather look at these situations and look at these cancellations. The whole point of discourse, do you guys get what the point of this whole, like, fucking, like, this whole episode structure is? The reason why we do discourse is not just to pull on the algorithm. That's part of it, because I would like to get paid. But also because the reality is that these situations have lessons in them. They have things that let us be better or worse. There's a reason why we defended Demon Mama against the Riley Gracious Shang thing. There's a reason why we defended fucking Doe against Riley Gracious Shang, even though the Doe doesn't even fucking talk to me anymore. Reason why? Because Doe was right. It's not about making fucking friends. At the end of the day, half of these people either don't like me or at least tolerate me online. But I want them as allies. I want them as part of a movement. I want the world to get better. Zena and I want to see things change. And as such, I don't care if they don't like me. I don't care if they pretend my partner doesn't exist. It pisses me off. I don't like that it hurts their feelings. But at the end of the day, what I want is them to use their platforms to do good and make things better. The conflation of this being a social group versus a political group needs to stop. And the problem is that all of the outcomes that are listed in this list are people trying to protect their social groups and by definition, their own little tiny fiefdoms of power. At the end of the day, look at what these 6 traits do. They're ways to maintain power. They're the ways of an authoritarian. Just using progressive language.
And they end up breaking down communities and isolating people instead.
So yeah, this is part 1. Zena and I are going to go through and sit down at a coffee shop and probably try to dig through the rest of these. There are definitely some ones in here that we need to talk about. The perfectionism one people brought up. There's also some other lists around. But I think that we need to break down more of this because I genuinely think we need to improve. I don't want to lose. Losing means death. We love you guys. We want you guys to be safe. And at the end of the day, like, you know, if we need to hold anybody to account, we need to hold people to account who, genuinely speaking, do this shit. And I don't mean through mobbing or harassing. I think genuinely trying in good faith to push them over. And if they aren't going to work, then I don't really know how to call them a leftist if they're not willing to hear out people. So I think that's it for me. Zizi, you got anything you want to finish up on?
That's about it, yeah.
Anyway, more to come soon on this, and I hope Keffels is okay, and I hope that, I probably think Vosh is fine, he's got a new cat, but still, I do hope he's okay. I don't like this stuff. I don't like the way people are treated online, and I know some people handle it better than others, but I'm going to defend the people that I always think are being the ones being attacked in this. I think the reactionary parts of the left are a fucking problem. Zena thinks the reactionary parts of the left are a fucking problem.
Oh, absolutely. I would like to, you know, not see people get traumatized because they've gotten, you know, isolated and harassed out of authoritarian, you know, people leading Discord communities. That would be nice.
One thing that will be on this list, and I'll try to get chat to remind us, but one of the things that's not on my list that I need to add is thought control. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot on this channel lately has been the idea that basically there's a way in which, especially with the whole anti-ship thing and all these other groups, there really does seem to be a way in which people want to control what people think about rather than what their behavior is. And the problem is that I don't think it's, one, I don't think that's an admirable or useful thing, but also I don't know whether we can ever, whether that's ever going to be a thing that we can really resolve. I guess I'll say on this, on the shorthand, is that I've told this to people in our chat before, and I've told this to people on our Discord and VC before. I'm going to guarantee that every person listening to this video or this stream has thought of some really horrendous, horrible shit. Every sin and every fucking taboo that humanity has ever thought of or had, everybody's had this. I have never found anyone that's ever came into my office and worked with me as a therapist that's not had this. And I want to tell you really quick, I don't care. I don't judge people because of their thoughts. Thoughts are spontaneous mentations that literally just pop out of your fucking head. People sometimes explore taboo concepts to be able to deal with trauma. I don't care. As long as you're not hurting anybody, I don't care. but the people we're talking about do. And I want to explore that more in the second half. So try to hold me to account on that, lol. And I think we will have more soon, all right? So with that said, we will see you in the next video.
Yep.
All right? Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. If you want to support the channel further, you could go to patreon.com/Zena and Poppy, and you could become a patron for as low as $3. If you want to support us further, you could donate below with a super thanks comment, or you could, in fact, even go to our website, which is currently transgrowtherapist.org. You can go there and either donate directly, or you can even get a subscription and get a cool colored name and chat next time we stream. Anyway, thank you again.